Hi, I'm Sam Elliott64,
I have Steve the American Killjoy.
And I'm World of Woodrow.
and you are listening to the RoboCast. Hello everyone, my name is Sam Elliott64, as you'd have already heard in the intro, and you are listening to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the American Killjoy, World of Woodrow, and we haven't got a guest.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
It feels very empty, but we were meant to have a guest. Said guest isn't available today.
Mhm.
However, we've spoken to said guest, and they will be joining us shortly for a sort of a full-length style interview with them about their team and the history of their team. So hopefully everyone will be looking forward to that, and it'll be, I think, an interesting discussion. When we get around to.
I think it'll be even better than what we were going to get this week. So
Yes, I agree.
very much looking forward to it.
There's a well of experience to kind of dive through. Before we talk about this week's episode, I think we're okay to discuss the fact that we have now officially heard that we are getting a 7th rebooted BattleBots season. The
Yes.
World Championship 7 has been officially
They're going
announced.
very Monster Jam in how they're announcing it and how they're advertising it in the case of this. Going for the full, just numeric World Championship.
I find it interesting the fact that they've kind of gone big on the World Championship branding again, because they did it for season 3, I think it was, and then kind of stopped doing it for a while. But they've
they started promoting it as Fight Night, and I think I don't know. I think they're just trying to keep it fresh.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
give it a lick of paint every now and again, just to keep people invested.
You have to, because it's. I mean, you always get worried that like a show like this is going to end up in like the Friday night death slot. And like, got to keep it fresh. You got to keep eyes coming back. I mean, it definitely pulls eyes. It wouldn't have lasted as long if it didn't. So I give them all the credit in the world.
I do think this is the way to go about doing it as well, by going for year-on-year World Championship 7, World Championship 8, because it
WrestleMania 23.
That sort of thing. Yeah, exactly.
I just picked a number, but whatever.
Especially considering over the last couple of years where they filmed a series in one year and then it started airing in the next year. Like this most recent series just gone was the 2021 season and the 2021 Golden Bolt, which is airing in the late summer, early autumn of
to the point
almost a full year.
I know. The website has actually put it up as 2021-2022 season.
Yeah, so I think
Discoveries thinks it's season 7.
Going back to the numerical seasons is, I think, the way to go, because to make it a little bit easier, I think.
I agree.
With that said, we've got no guest robot to talk about, so
and we don't have any questions because nobody wants to ask us questions.
Well, should we talk about some fights?
I was going to ask a question before we do.
Go on, Jevan.
Is before this episode, what was your favourite fight from the race for the Golden Bolt, if you will? Favourite? I know it's an awful question to ask, but I think for me personally, it's going to have to be Mad Catter versus Hypershock, because
that's what I was.
I'm looking at that first episode, honestly.
Yeah,
like all those fights were good.
I was leaning towards that, or maybe this is recency bias coming into this, but I think last week Whiplash versus Black Dragon was also excellent.
Another banger.
I know it was a stomping for Whiplash, but like it was just some of the things that Matt was able to do with that robot was excellent. I don't think, I'll be honest, any of the fights this week beat it for me, but.
No. I was happy to see Deep Six's coming out party. I liked that episode a lot. I liked all those fights. Just to the fact, like
the Shatter fight in particular, that was
that was wonderful. Honestly,
very good. Yeah, I think so. I think that was probably my favorite. I'll say mine's the different one to Jevan's just for the sake of being different. But I think Hypershock versus Mad Cat.
Also, Sam, your hair is melted away.
No, well, it's the blonde's gone now. Yeah,
the blonde is gone.
Yeah, I was offended by Henry Strang's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. What a time to call that out.
This is for you, Sarah.
Yeah, Henry Strang's girlfriend. How dare you? She's definitely going to watch this.
I actually watched it last week, and she said, "Who's the Gilbert with the blonde hair?" And then it was me.
Got a point.
Let's move on quickly before I get into trouble. And the one time I meet you, I'm going to get slapped or something. To fight number 1.
Yes.
Which was Ribbot versus Endgame. There's a bit of a theme with the fights, which we'll get to throughout.
BattleBots rematch.
Literally, I mean, to be fair, I'm not upset by that. The fact that they all have storied.
I like it.
Yeah, and even then, like, the robots are all different enough since the last time each of them fought that I don't think any of the results were the same. So that's pretty cool in my book. Apart from 1, we'll get to that later. Oh no, sorry, 2. This fight was all about Endgame outthinking Ribbot.
Yeah, this is. I mean, so I had questions about this fight even before it even started because they were saying they were all changing their setup right up until the fight, and then I went, hang on a minute, weren't there rules in place to stop that this year?
There were. I imagine Ribbot. Maybe they had 2 complete Ribbots and they just kept saying.
They just.
You imagine having them
to
the scale. Honestly, I mean,
they may well have done.
And then walked forward to one, not the other. I mean, that would be a great way to go about it. Having 2 Ribbots fully working and just.
I feel that's a lot of that's a lot of stress. I feel like for the team and a lot of hard work getting
the
2 robots.
The WPI team is massive. You've watched Norwalk Havoc.
I know, but like it's a lot of faff. It's a lot of faff. I think. When I watched this fight the first time, like obviously the genius of the Endgame team, like you putting the forks on as a contingency plan in case Ribbot does come out with the vert. They thought they were going to go horizontal, but they weren't sure. I watched them snap them off at the start. You know, that brilliant little bit of gamesmanship where they just broke them off before the fight starts, so they can't count towards damage in the fight, which is again, thinking really, really cleverly. Those things were not welded on like seriously at all.
Not at all. Not even close. So if they were planning for that, they wouldn't have. I don't even know if they would have lasted had they gone with the vert.
One wasn't even on the floor. One was kind of half. Like it was definitely there as a sort of emergency.
The made for TV moment.
Maybe they did it just.
I think the better way of doing it was would have been had Ribbot then brought out the vert, right? If they'd have then taken the front wedge things off and the wedgelets are underneath, just ready to go.
That would have been really clever, really, really clever. Maybe I doubt they'd have had the weight for that though. That's the only issue.
Right.
As soon as those forks are gone, there's only one way the fight's going to go, unfortunately for Ribbot, because Endgame has a big wedge.
I do think it's that they've chosen the wrong weapon here. The vert.
Really?
I mean, it's the vert that beat Endgame the first time round. Vert, thin forks, nice and low, beat Endgame. That's how it was done. And to try horizontal against Endgame, who we know have an excellent horizontal game. I mean, we've seen it against Tombstone previously. It just didn't go well for them.
No, that first hit, it really is game over almost immediately. They get them into that corner, and I don't
Ribbot's
think
not
there's
right
a
at that
chance.
point.
No, there's no chance of them coming back. They're under the pulverizer. Their belts off. They're spinning but not moving. The wheels are spinning but no one's home. It just was it was a massacre.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about the had they gone with the vert, they'd have done better, because the thing is with Endgame is it has more reach than Ribbot's vert, and obviously they have longer forks. So if they'd gone with the vert, it would have been. I still think it would have been a challenge.
Yeah.
The fact they went for the horizontal, I feel like they were trying to outdrive them, and I think they got boxed in quite quickly, didn't they? By Endgame, it was didn't really get a chance to do much, and then that first hit just kind of smashed all the pulleys underneath, and it was cooked from then, really, wasn't it? There was no...
It was. I mean, if you can get the side of Ribbot's cooked, it's done in, because those chains are just there.
Yeah, the kind of sacrificial armor to you know, to the sides here on either side. It's not sacrificial, obviously. They're like, it's essentially a chain guard, isn't it? But
I do think that it's something they need to look into going forwards, is having something to cover them, because you can't have it all exposed like that.
No.
Yeah, well, you just got to drive better. That's the thing, you know.
David is very good, right? David's very good at driving that style of robot. Obviously, we've said it a lot at Norwalk with Hot Leaf Juice as well, but yeah, it just didn't work out this time against Endgame, and Endgame progressing and getting as they said at the end of the fight, it's now 1-1, so they need to have a third fight, right?
They do.
They do
just
indeed.
like building that story, and just like you're talking about, you gotta have these storylines where teams build up rivalries and get better. One has to one up the other.
Absolutely.
I mean, the best rivalry, I think, in BattleBots, and if you were to do like a true Hexbug rival set of it, would have to be Witch Doctor versus Sawblaze.
It just times.
Is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe Hypershock versus Bite Force, but I suppose that's kind of it's not really fair to say it's
not a rivalry. That's a stomping.
It's cyberbullying, isn't it? Really, at this point.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hypershock,
this is a very different rematch.
Yes, it was.
This is I can't remember the first time these two fought. I know it is the third fight.
The first time they fought was in 2018. It was the really not very good Hypershock. This is the first time that they brought out the yellow design. It had its big issues. It had just been gutted by Bite Force.
Oh, with the powered forks.
And
when they came out with their racing suits.
Skorpios, meanwhile, was a lovely minty green with a saw blade on the top, or maybe an angle grinder. Who knows? What a time!
I cannot remember that fight for the life of me. Obviously, I remember last year's because it was
only on earlier this year, Sam.
This is true. You guys did just get
recently.
I must have just missed it. I must have missed that episode. And obviously last year Skorpios was in good form, and Hypershock was having its issues as well last year.
Hypershock was having a 2018 season.
Yeah, it really was. This year, however, it's not. It's having a 2021 season.
Now, I think I heard the words 52 seconds on 2 minutes 52 seconds on the clock.
But when it went out,
yeah. 8 seconds.
It was 3 hits. First hit
it
over
really
it goes.
Was.
First hit over it goes. And the blade was kind of digging into the floor, spinning it round.
A little pirouette.
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. And then second hit hits it into the kind of the wall, almost out, but not quite. And then Will lined it up, and away she went.
I do like hearing the story. I can't remember if it was in this fight or the next. For Hypershock, hearing the story about why they made a set of forks.
It was the next one.
It was the next one. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for a little bit later on. It's a shame for Skorpios because we never really got to see what it could do. Obviously they use the same sort of armor configuration that they did against Hypershock last time, but Hypershock got under them, which is as Will
that's the big
to,
difference.
Very rare, and the fact that it was just so low, and obviously previously Hypershock has not had. Well, it has had wedges before, but not for a good while.
Yeah.
And it had the same kind of style of front end that Witch Doctor did, with the weapon is first and then it's the robot.
Yeah.
Whereas now this
is sort of a more Lockjaw feel, I feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like Witch Doctor 2018, where it had like a little feeder wedge, but like it's or if we look at this picture here, I'm looking at this picture here. I'm not even thinking about the fight. It was over so fast.
It's ironic that this picture here is actually completely inaccurate because they will never go in this setup because it's too heavy.
Not a single time.
Oh, dearie me.
And it's probably better off that way because I don't know if you would change anything about it, Hypershock, at this point, because it just hums too well. It just hums so well.
There are little things that I think will get changed, but I think from 2021 to 2022, it will be small changes rather than complete overhaul.
Watch him come back with a hammer or something next year.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't really a fight, this one. It was very much a 1, 2, 3, out you go, on to the next one. It's a shame for Skorpios, again. It was interesting to see them using a different type of weapon again. Didn't really get to see it. It's kind of still untested.
It's a shame too because when you get to this point, you get to this bracket, you expect them, to really draw up, have a nice drawn out fight, a really good battle, and you've gone through all these fights, this whole other bracket just to even get into this, and then just like that, it's over. I'm sure it's a painful loss. I will say everybody who loses their fights in this bracket don't seem overly upset about losing. It seems very jovial. Like even the Ribbot team last week, they're laughing their heads off. It just. It's the end of the tournament, I guess.
I imagine they're all
less to bring it home.
They're all a bit tired, aren't they? I think as well at this point, and as are the robots. And Hypershock getting one back against Skorpios.
Yep, it's now 2-1.
Yep. Fight 3. We've mentioned Witch Doctor briefly.
Wow. Now we know the answer.
The only one that's not a rematch, but it's a reschedule.
Yeah, the reschedule, the match that should have been in the round of 32, and to be honest. this was Glitch's best driving performance of the entire season.
By far.
It looked buttery smooth, and there was a few moments, like a few occasions where Witch Doctor goes in and Glitch does that kind of pirouette that it did against Rotator, and just like you're thinking
the Tombstone maneuver.
Well, it's more than that, because the way that Glitch can move is different to the way Tombstone is, because obviously when Tombstone turns, the whole robot has to turn around.
Yeah.
When Glitch turns, the weapon's still pointing at you. It's just it's just moving the angle. And I thought if there was a connection, it could have been very sticky for Witch Doctor. We've seen, that base plate get bent and warped by weapons less powerful than Glitch's. Obviously Tantrum won the final bit by bending is aluminium base plate? I want to say it might be.
I can't remember, but yes.
I don't think it's a very substantial material, let's say that much.
Either that or not a substantial thickness.
Yeah. Even if it's like titanium or anything like that, it didn't look like it at the end. So, oh man. Oh, also with Witch Doctor running forks for the very first time.
What is this? Forks?
Yeah, it was very odd.
They were super little stubbies as well, weren't they? They weren't
but they were enough.
They were enough to get caught in the kill saws several times.
I will say this is potentially the worst that Witch Doctor has driven all series, proving the team right that just don't run wedgelets.
Mm-hmm. You're just not used to running wedgelets.
Just send it. Yeah, just send it. It was an interesting time to kind of trial that new setup. Obviously, this late into a competition, but at the same time, it's like, well, no one else has been able to really get to Glitch and kind of get a bite on Glitch, and I feel like had Witch Doctor not run those forks, they may not have done either. It's such a slippery little customer, isn't it, Glitch? And it's a shame that it kind of took one big smack and that one wheel wouldn't work, and that was all she wrote for it, really.
I'm surprised it took this long for a robot to get around Glitch and actually hit one of those wheels, because Omni wheels are very, very delicate when compared to other wheel types that you can bring into the battle box, and just shredding off rollers is enough to ruin them.
It really is. Removing one roller is enough. It can really scupper the drive completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It is, and they're a very, not an obvious target, but a very tempting target, isn't it? So yeah,
I had an idea about how Glitch could return, and it's a really stupid idea, so hear me out.
Okay.
You see that shape on the front? There's a big, nice triangle. What if they just replicated that on the back? Because then it is just a mountain with a weapon on the top, and things will try and drive up it and just not get there because it'll just get. I don't know.
It'd be funny, wouldn't it? It's a gloriously unusual and unique shape, isn't it?
It's a very aggressive polygon.
Yeah,
it surely is. It surely is. And speaking of aggressive, Witch Doctor looking pretty punchy in this fight. Again, they've really learned to be patient. Especially we saw that against Whiplash. We saw them in this fight as well. Like really, Mike was taking his time, trying to get round. Couldn't get round one way. Okay, I'll reverse and I'll go back the other way. You don't really see people like driving in reverse very often in combat robotics in general.
No.
So it's a useful skill to have, to like just have that kind of clarity of thought, to be like, okay, I don't need to be going forward all the time. I can just back out and take my time and reassess and go again.
Yeah, it was just another really good fight for them, and I guess we get to have the answer of what would have happened had they met in the bracket. Possibly, it's I mean, what can you say at this point for Witch Doctor? It's just a lean, mean fighting machine, and that's just how it is. And there's not much that can deny that at this point. This episode will show that, like, I mean, it's got maybe a cute, cuddly exterior, but it's very mean, and I think we always knew that.
It is indeed very mean. Fight number 4. I nearly said 3 then. Fight number 4 was the only fight in the first round with 2 champions in it, which I'm surprised. Again, for the sake of the story and the building of the other matches, I understand.
An all-stars tournament, if you will.
Yeah, I understand. Why this rematch was also put in there, but like, I would have thought they would have spaced the giant nut winners out.
I think so. Putting back the curtain, I believe they are going to do champions again next year, and
I would think
potentially 4 champions at that point. Put one in each round.
Yep, please.
For each of the first fights.
Yep.
I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't do it again, even if the like even I know here's the thing with filming Champions, and we've already talked about this. It's just like there has to be enough time to film the main season. Yeah. It has to not cause strain on scheduling,
which we'll get to one instance of this. We'll bring this up a little bit later on, but yeah, I mean this fight.
This fight was interesting because Tantrum sort of reminded me of 2020 you said champion. Tantrum. He's a champion. He's a 2020 champion.
No.
No. Right, so it reminded me of 2020 Tantrum in the weapon went down and it became a brick. And that is...
And they had the gruff bars, and the fact that they've acknowledged them as gruff bars was very exciting.
It worked.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I'm intrigued as to the decision Ray made with going with the S7 bar. And I know why he did it. It's the one that's gonna, if it's gonna get cut through Tantrum, that is gonna do it, because Tantrum it's a slightly harder steel, and it will cut through. For those of you who have watched the Skorpios builder blog, he will highlight the fact that it is more brittle.
Yeah,
as we've seen previously, against his fights with Witch Doctor and Bite Force, he's used the S7 bar there, and they've just gone like a chocolate bar and shattered all over the place. And we kind of saw it here a little bit. There's a great picture on the Tombstone Facebook page of a little sliver.
It's very hard to see in real time. They show it in the slow motion replays after the fight of this piece of metal just flying away. This reddish colored piece of metal just floating away. There it is. That
one right there, which you can actually buy. I think you can buy that bar. I think so.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And that little bit was enough to...
and it's actually sitting in the blue square in the fight.
That was enough to have the weapon unbalanced on Tombstone, and then just start shaking itself to bits, a la Shredderator, like it did in the very first fight of the season.
Yeah.
Watching, again, I'm going to give another shout out to the Skorpios builder blog, because it's fantastic, and you should go and subscribe to the Skorpios team to get them up to 10k, and so they can destroy a car.
Yeah.
But in the interview they did with Ray, he said a lot of the design changes made to this version of Tombstone, like the new Tombstone that was put together for the 2021 season, every single change that they made it worse. Somehow, like, obviously the robot's all smaller, and so but therefore should be a little bit more structurally sound and should be a little bit more solid.
And maneuverable.
Exactly. The issue they had was they made it shorter at the back, so this kind of back area here where it says Tombstone is shorter than it has previously been, and the wheels are further forward on the robots where they have been previously as well, due to the nature of the new drive system that they put in for this year. The issue with that made it all very front heavy, and the issue with that made it harder and worse to drive than Tombstone has previously been. Now, whether that means Tombstone would have been better as the previous version, you can't really say. It's hard.
Ifs and buts, candy and nuts. I mean, you can make every comparison and still not know the answer.
Correct.
It's one of those things where if you've got a robot as dangerous as Tombstone, there's very little place you can test it out to make sure that you can get some good driving practice in with it spinning and all sorts. The first time you're going to really have a good chance is your first match in the battle box, and that's where they found out that it's a bit tricky, and it's a real shame, because I actually think this is one of the better looking Tombstones.
I agree.
I think it's a really nice design. It's almost, if you look at the evolution of Tombstone, it shows how technology has improved over the years. It feels a lot sleeker. It's a lot smaller, as you said. It's more compact, and I think that is the biggest thing for these robots. Where we've got robots such as Tantrum, who's a real tiny robot, able to withstand amazing hits as it did in this fight. It's just a shame that everything inside it didn't.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like
happy.
Yeah, I feel like this is a fight that Tombstone, had it not shaken itself to bits, could have won. And I think had they gone for the, let's say, more reliable, maybe less, likely to do the big damage to Tantrum, but the more reliable steel weapon bar, could they have outlasted them? Could they keep hitting them? It's hard to say. You can never tell, because it has been plagued with reliability issues this season, and I'm sure that's not just down to the weapon bar choice. It's a whole new robot that Ray's working with, and it clearly needed some more fine tuning.
Yeah. It came out of R&D a little too soon, but that's the thing with this turnaround for this tournament. It's every year, and for him, I mean, Tombstone's going to come back. That's the thing, it's a stalwart. Like it's part of the reboot, guard. Like
it's them and Bite Force, really, isn't it? They are the two big daddies of the show since it's come back.
Yeah,
and Witch Doctor.
Yes.
And Witch Doctor and Hypershock and Zawblaze. The thing is, I guess
there's a few
2015.
now.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. As years will go on, that club grows. But
I do want to give a big shout out to the Tantrum team. Obviously, I know they won last season, but this was the fight which for me has kind of cemented them as they fought. This is a rematch of a match that was an exhibition fight to see how powerful Tombstone was.
Mm-hmm.
Versus how durable.
Or a joke against a joke Robos, essentially, which it was at the time. It was a weaker opponent against the best robot in the field. It was eliminated early.
Mm-hmm.
To now be fighting them as equals, or even having maybe Tombstone being the underdog is within the space of 3 years, incredible, absolutely incredible, and amazing.
It's like somebody at 600 rating in chess fighting a grandmaster, and then all of a sudden now they're 2500 and fighting them again, and they beat them. It's you've grown over the years, and it's clearly shown through Tantrum, and it's only getting better. So I mean, it's a true testament to evolution and how Aaron and his team really have learned from their past. But hey,
absolutely.
I'm still sad to see Tombstone burn up. It's just the sin.
It didn't even go up in flames really this time. It was just a big cloud of smoke.
Yeah, a bit not anticlimactic because obviously we saw a few pretty sparks going off in there, but it was a bit of a shame. Our first semi-final.
It's the Florida Showdown.
It is finally.
It's the Miami Showdown. And literally the same building showdown.
I have to say, it's interesting to know that Hypershock got custody of Technical T-Rex after the end of Tale of the Tape.
I think Technical T-Rex. I don't know. This is weird because Technical T-Rex is on the Witch Doctor store. You can buy your own.
Yeah, you can, and you can buy Technical T-Rex merch from Witch Doctor, but he was on the Hypershock team.
Yeah, you need the T-Rex to join your Totodile and your Axolotl.
It must have been. I can't afford it. I cannot.
Okay. I thought he didn't hear me.
Very, very pricey dinosaur, especially if in the UK.
Well, they had to dig him up, man. I mean, it's a lot of money.
And it plays the song as well.
Oh,
I can allow it because it plays the song. But yeah, I can't afford it at the minute because somebody wants to go to Las Vegas for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think the interesting thing is that Witch Doctor clearly used Technical T-Rex as distraction tactics because, as we all know, Will and Technical T-Rex just they butt heads, and we saw it in this episode. You can't be going around having Technical T-Rex getting in the way, and it's just awful camaraderie from Technical T-Rex to show such poor form in this fight.
Another thing as well, which I did appreciate in the pre-fight antics, was once again Andrea Galately's witchcraft and spooky.
I was so happy to see it back again.
We haven't seen it for
spooky finger.
We haven't seen it for a couple, at least a season or two now. So
it was was
it last year?
It was last year's Bounty Hunters.
The
final was the spooky hands,
the spooky thingies. The start of this fight was electric.
It was this.
The best thing for me was when Witch Doctor came out as the aggressor, and then Hypershock moved out of the way, and then suddenly it was Hypershock doing the drifting, and it was like, oh, someone called an ambulance, but not for me.
No.
And then
and then it all went Pete Tong.
Well, yes. Jevan, you were the one who said Hypershock was going to secure the bag. It was looking good.
I predicted the first round as it as it went through, it was all fine, went exactly as predicted, really.
Mhm. Yep.
And then this fight didn't. Now, I do feel that when I made my predictions, I was more just wishing to support Hypershock. I had to believe, and I always hope to believe, but once again, it is proven that when I back Hypershock, it doesn't win.
Your
Doesn't.
belief.
The only time I haven't supported Hypershock is Remars, and it's the only bloody time it's won. So I think from now on, least favorite robot.
Oh, right.
No, I could
Hear
never
that,
do
Will?
that. I could
Oh, no.
never ever do that.
I did find it.
Too good.
Of course, let's not forget in this fight we had Tiregate.
Yeah, what was that? How do you account for something like that happening ever?
You can't. Like that's like the fact that Hypershock was just able to incapacitate Witch
tires
Doctor in
are-
such a way.
The tires on Hypershock have been and always will be sacrificial.
Yeah.
They are the best piece of entanglement in robot combat history.
This is why you don't run
And I think-
Brazil wheels.
I think this is it. This is what Jonathan Pierce was always talking about, not bringing tires into the arena because
There you
it's
go.
an illegal entanglement weapon.
Right.
No more. It's perfectly legal. I enjoyed it so much. I'm only sad that Witch Doctor managed to get free
I
because
know.
up until that point, I don't know how the judges would have decided it, but it is technically taking out a weapon system.
Mhm.
Does it count as damage? Have they disabled the weapon? Yes, because it's not working.
You can't, you can't use it. I mean, and as you know, Andrea and Mike said after the fight, they were trying everything to get it out, but they couldn't do it because
Those spooky fingers couldn't make that tire move
exactly
at all.
Bad
Couldn't happen.
juju, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there were a few nice pops as well from Hypershock. There was that one where, like, it's done it a few times. But when Hypershock connects and when the weapon, the weapon stops and all of that energy goes into its opponent, it is
Just
a
everything.
scary weapon.
Yeah.
Like, Witch Doctor starts levitating in the air, and it bounces down. And you're like, "Oh, that was a bit spicy." And if I imagine if Witch Doctor's weapon collided with the wall, that could have been problematic, but it didn't. They were very fortunate. And
I
then
think had Hypershock found a wheel, I think that would have been
maybe there were a few occasions where Hypershock, a robot which supposedly doesn't gyro, which it definitely does.
Definitely gyro.
It just launches itself over, and
that is the Hypershock maneuver, isn't it?
Yeah,
just a body slam.
just a body slam, and here's my weapon.
And there was another fun bit where it did the warhead thing where it was on two wheels on its side.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was a very entertaining fight. This is probably the best fight of the episode for me.
I agree. It's the most entertaining fight for sure.
It's amazing they haven't fought before.
Yeah,
until this point.
They are
How is
very
that
similar
possible?
in build and everything. I don't think they ever wanted to put them up against each other because they
Even
thought,
with that's what I mean. They'd kill each other, but even with the fight card format, like it's just
here's the
historically
thing,
story wise.
Here's the thing, Steve. Okay,
Tell me, Sam. Mansplain me.
I will mansplain to you why Hypershock and Witch Doctor have never fought in BattleBots. Okay.
Okay.
Witch Doctor has been that higher echelon robot now for 6 seasons.
now be careful what you say here, Sam.
Hypershock has had 1 good season.
How dare you? It's had 2. No, it's had 3. 16, 19, 21. You know that this year's Hypershock is going to be dreadful.
Yeah,
it just has to be.
So I mean that with absolute respect, by the way. This is not this is not me, belittling the achievements of the Hypershock team.
I mean, clearly they proved that they can prove their mettle because of
course, of course. And unfortunately,
tournament.
over the last few years, Witch Doctor has this reputation of being consistently at that high level.
They like
Hypershock
the number 2
for 2018.
very much.
Yes,
Yeah, that's true.
Well, even then, it's still got round of 16 and lost to the eventual runner-up. You can't.
But also bear in mind that they only started on the round of 16 at that time.
I know, but they were 3-1, weren't they? I mean, I know their matchups were maybe more favourable, but my point was more. Witch Doctor has, a lot of pedigree in terms of combat prowess, whereas Hypershock has always kind of
more consistency,
flip-flopped, hasn't it? Really, and this was the most amazing run for Hypershock. I mean, they are the last qualifier standing.
Yeah,
they made it all the way to the final 4 as a play-in robot. That was in a bounty tournament and wasn't even a gatekeeper. So massive credit to them. They worked so hard.
And I don't think
assuming
Hypershock probably would have made it any further had it been on the other side of the bracket, because
Mhm.
you know we've seen what happens when it faces Endgame. I was glad that it didn't fight Endgame in this round, because it's a different fight.
And
It's
I
something we
think,
haven't seen before.
and I feel like Tantrum's just too well controlled. I know Hypershock is well driven, and it has the ability to cause you problems, but Tantrum is just so well planted, and it's so hard to get round. And I think that it would. I think this is where it was just going to ultimately end for Hypershock. But
Yeah.
what a run! What a run!
And I will say with Will, like his final match, his post match interview was very spicy. But I mean, he's right. Hypershock hadn't been really touched until that point.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
Right. I mean, but it's a testament to the other team. They really, the Witch Doctor found a way through when others couldn't, and maybe other teams can use that to get an upper hand on Hypershock.
Yeah. How do you feel about how this competition's gone this year, Jevan? Because obviously it clearly was a lot better than the round of 32. Obviously this whole Hypershock run also reflects very well on P1 and how well they did.
Well, this is it. I think P1 is a bad matchup for Hypershock because it's so low. It's a low flat box, and they used it like a stunt wrap because Hypershock has the big monster truck tires, and they just drive over everything. So I think there are some other matchups that could have been more favourable for them in the round of 32, and I think that Hypershock could have gone further had they gone. It's also worth noting that was a judge's decision fight. It went the full 3 minutes, and it was a very close one. It could have gone either way. It's been a really good year for Hypershock. Really, really good year. For those who have doubted it in the past, I think it has put to bed a lot of things. And I'm hoping that they can break the every other year curse that they seem to have going, that they can keep it consistent and keep it going, because they're on a trajectory that has them finishing very highly, getting back up there to top 8 like they were in 2016. That's the dream. Top 8 or better for next year, or this year even, because they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, the hard work's definitely paid off, and obviously, I think having that expanded pool of knowledge in their team as well, but more of a proper pit crew with Hypershock. As
they have another driver now as well.
They do, obviously. Mrs. Bales of winning remiles with Hypershock.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible performance.
I am interested to see whether they get her to drive either all the time in the main competition or in side events in the competition, or I don't know, but either that or they take it in turns. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to find that out. I'm sure we're in the lead up to the filming, so it's I'm sure that's either being decided or already has been decided.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We will indeed see, and obviously Witch Doctor going through to another final, which
considering that they have had a turnaround of like 2 days to get to, or one night to get round to their match at the end of last week's episode, and then I don't think it was much longer to get to this.
Well, I was going to say, the fact is, Witch Doctor has done the maximum possible amount of fights that they could have done this season, because let's say, they've obviously they had the 3, like unlike a lot of teams, they had 3 fight night fights. Okay, yes, the last one was against Rusty, but it was still a fight. They also went through the entire bracket to the final of the previous season and ultimately lost. They then had to, because they lost, they then had to do their, gatekeeper fight. If they'd have won that, they wouldn't have done. They'd have gone straight through.
Yeah.
And obviously they've now done another 2 fights, and they're in the final for again of this competition, which makes it 12 fights in total.
Yeah. That's a lot of fatigue on those parts.
They said like towards the end of this competition, Witch Doctor was like, we'll get to it in a minute, but like the whole robot was just looking tired, and I think
you could even say that for this fight coming up, Sam. Honestly, for Tantrum, I mean, talk about a war of attrition for the entirety of the season. I mean, you go through all the way to the final and win it all, but now you got to go back and do it. You got to run it up again,
and then fight Tombstone and Endgame.
This was my fear.
Thankfully,
for this
they didn't have to go through a bracket. They already had a place.
I was concerned that going into this, this would kind of detract from their giant nut success.
Sure.
And I don't know whether it did or not. I kind of feel like it did, because
it's like, who is the big champion? Is it Tantrum because they won the actual season, or is it Endgame because they won this other competition?
Well, here's the thing. When did the second World Championship happen for you guys over there for Robot Wars?
2001.
Specific. 2001. So around the filming of
Series 5.
Series 5. So okay, so Razor won them both.
Yeah, Razor won.
It can't fight itself.
I'm
trying to.
What's your point, buddy boy?
Third
World Championship.
Then let's go to Third World Championship. We got Storm 2. So Storm 2 not only goes through the entire New Blood Championship, wins that, goes through the whole season, losing to Typhoon and losing that, and then going through the whole Third World Championship and winning that. It's amazing to see a one robot go through all those fights and not just fall apart without having to rebuild it continuously over and over and over again. And it wears on the team, I'm sure. I mean, you have to ask, but
you can only be asked so many times, when are you going to put a weapon on your robot, right?
Honest.
Like
and that was in the early 2000s. We're 20 years past that.
Yeah.
And Tantrum by this point, like, that start as well, where the forks were all interlocked, I was just like, what's going to happen? Because the thing is, Endgame's got more reach with the weapon, as we know. And it just, Tantrum couldn't deliver their weapon into Endgame. And like, I feel like there is in a world in which Tantrum can beat Endgame. It's just, on this occasion...
I will say that they took a step in the right direction from their previous match, whereby the Shreemec kept working for the whole time. And it's because they put it on separate systems to the weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it worked out for them. And I think it also helps that Endgame is a lot fresher than Tantrum, because Tantrum has had... This is now fight number 9 for Tantrum. It's fight number 7 for Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those fights was the Sawblaze one-hit kill. So... okay, as much as it is going to be wear and tear on some components, it's less than it would have been for... Tantrum's been through a lot in the last season. Gigabyte and Rotator were absolute brawls. Hydra was, it wasn't getting too damaged, but it was still getting...
The effect of gravity, do not underestimate, because they will really screw up some motors and all sorts.
Correct. And obviously, Tombstone giving you a good smack around is never nice. So
they've had a rough season.
They have.
So the fact that they came out with a giant nut is impressive enough. I don't think they even needed the golden bolt, because, this is the flip side of the argument I was saying earlier, because they know what they've achieved. We know what they've achieved. Do they need this new hardware? Not particularly.
Yeah. And guess what? The bot didn't die. It pushed all the way through.
It went 3 minutes with a fully working Endgame, and gave Endgame some headaches for later on.
Oh yeah. Endgame is definitely not unscathed from this fight, saying that they didn't get hit. It didn't mean that there wasn't, system damage.
Correct.
Oh, sure.
Correct. There was, again, it wasn't. It's hard to digest this fight really, because it was one-way traffic. As soon as those forks on Tantrum were either bent or broken off, Tantrum full sending it into Endgame and just getting chucked around was amazing.
It's very Captain America. I could do this all day.
Yeah, literally. It just didn't work out for Tantrum this time, the strategy, and Endgame is just this powerhouse, isn't it? It's so good.
I will say that this is probably the most orange we've seen in a fight in a long time.
Probably since the last time they fought.
Yeah. At least a year.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, this was just a 3-minute beatdown.
It was.
Tantrum just couldn't get their weapon to reach, and then once it went, I mean, that was curtains.
It was indeed. Before we get on to the final, though, there were some other things to address.
At last.
So we had our Best in Show awards. The Rookie Award being shared between Glitch and Riptide, and they both got a pulverizer each.
Yeah.
Pretty cool trophy.
That is pretty cool.
It is a pretty cool trophy. I think fair enough.
Deservedly so. I think Glitch going for so long without taking a loss effectively. I know they'd had to pull out of a match, but that's not a loss. Not really.
Mm-mm.
And obviously,
it wasn't a win.
Riptide getting a top 8 placing. Beating Uppercut, beating Shatter, beating Duck, beating Huge. It's a great run, and there is a supporter fight which Riptide is in, where it is just downright scary, and like it is a good watch. And obviously, as you mentioned, Glitch having that incredible run to get to the final of the BattleBots Champions tournament is
crazy,
spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And I'm excited to see what both teams bring next season. And next one was the most destructive award. Jevan.
Yeah.
I'll take it. This hardware I never saw coming for Hypershock, and yet it's so deserved.
Their third giant bolt. I suppose at this point this was their second, but it is their third now.
They're going to have to create they're going to have to create like a block to screw the bolts into until they can actually get a nut.
I think the Mad Catter fight and the Gigabyte fight,
and Valkyrie,
and the Valkyrie fight. Valkyrie got ruined,
absolutely bodied. But also, how many robots have been sent skywards in the main tournament as well by this robot? Yeah. Hypershock has been scary this year. It's been really, really good, really, really powerful, and deserves most destructive. It just does.
Yeah, the only other contender you could really say for most destructive was maybe Cobalt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, dismantling.
Had Cobalt had a couple of fights like the Ghost Raptor fight, then I think it would probably have taken it. However, 3 utter destructions in short succession
pays. I think maybe a little bit of recency bias, but yeah, I think so. Like the fact that Hypershock was able to, just dismembered 3 robots in a row, and then it's. Yeah, spectacular to watch this season, and
it's not often we get to see a complete removal of weaponry.
Yeah, a complete removal of the whole.
Unless
body.
Somebody's fighting Ghost Raptor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a whole other discussion, isn't it? Really. Now, history was made. History was made.
It was filmed. No more questions.
We've seen it on TV. Yes. You can screw the giant nut on top of the giant bolt. It is possible. And
can you then weightlift with it?
Aaron Hill clearly can. He's obviously been hitting the gym.
Swole. Very swole.
And completely deserved. Like what? I mean, of all the robots to get
there are no other robots that deserved it more than Blip this year.
No, like there is Blip, and then there is everyone else in terms of just like ingenuity in engineering,
pushing the boundary.
Yeah, exactly.
I am interested to see what people will come back with next year and who will get it, because Blip pushes the boat out for a lot of things. It shows that you can have an interesting design, an interesting mechanism done so well that it works. I mean, Blip was an experiment, let's be honest. It was an experimental robot this year.
This is a successful experiment.
Damn worked.
It did. It was incredible to watch as well.
And who's to say that a flywheel system can't be used with a different weapon system?
Like a hammer.
Who says it has to be a hammer? Yeah, anything. Like just the gears turn, or the elastic stitches.
What if a flywheel operated another flywheel?
Right.
Big brain time for us here. And
you
finally,
just created Counter Revolution, by the way, Jevan.
Yeah.
Oh no.
What's wrong with Counter Revolution? We just didn't get to see it very much.
It was a very good RoboGames robot.
Yeah,
it was a very good RoboGames robot.
And then it met Tombstone, and that was the last time I saw it.
It's interesting. I was having this discussion with someone the other day, and how we were talking about the sort of field of robots we have in BattleBots at the minute, and how a lot of them feel a little bit RoboGamesy, probably because we haven't had RoboGames. And I wonder whether that field will thin out a little now that RoboGames is coming back. Maybe. Or whether it will be used as a testing ground for improving other things, and we'll get to see these designs better than before.
You think people will get their fix just from RoboGames instead of going to BattleBots as using it like a training ground? I don't know. That's
no. I don't think so either. I feel like if anything, they'll go to RoboGames to kind of maybe get an idea of a drive train, or get some practice, some drive practice in. But I think BattleBots is still that holy grail, isn't it? You get to go to Vegas, and
the Premier League.
Yeah,
I was going to say
exactly. And finally, the other award winner, the Founders Award, going to Sawblaze.
Arguably the most coveted.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the Founders Award is given in respect for, because last year it felt like, they deserve the Founders Award because they represent the spirit of the sport. They're getting other people invested. And I'm trying to remember the other winners.
The
Monsoon has won the Founders Award before.
They do.
Hydra has won the Founders Award before. So whether it's just a case of, yeah, that's a real cool robot.
It's funny because
I mean, they start the season almost every year. It's
They
kind
do.
of remarkable they haven't gotten it already.
I think
the show
it's
clearly,
kind of
clearly
it's
loves this robot.
a spirit of the show, getting into enjoying it in the pit, that kind of thing. Good attitude, and I feel like Sawblaze does all of that. Jameson's been kicking people's ass on the live scene for
Been
forever.
around a good long while.
Exactly, and
Sawblaze and it's not an age thing, JMO.
It's not. He's still a young guy, and like
he is.
And Sawblaze has been stepped up to that next level again this year. That fight with Minotaur, unbelievable.
Yeah,
getting to that top 4 as well this year, only losing out to Witch Doctor, which again, no shame there.
I do think in a rematch against Endgame, they'd have a chance.
It's one each between them as well now, so
they're one of very few who I think have a strong chance against Endgame.
Yeah, because the Endgame top plates aren't the thickest. They're not.
Nope.
Well, you mentioned Endgame, Jevan. That is a really, really lovely segue, because the final of the Golden Bolt... Oh, yeah, no, we were there. The final of the Golden Bolt competition is Witch Doctor versus Endgame. Again, for the second time this season.
It's so disappointing that they started in the squares that they did, because everything's written backwards on both of these pictures.
I know.
If only.
I'm really sorry. I'm not that talented with Photoshop.
I mean, it's not your fault. It's just a photo.
Yeah, it's true. What have we learned from Endgame's second fight of the season? What have we learned from the previous time that these two have fought?
Yeah, they fought earlier this year, didn't they?
They
or
did.
In the season.
They did, yeah. It was Endgame's second fight and Witch Doctor's second fight.
Yeah.
And what have we learned since then?
Endgame wins?
Endgame's pretty good, isn't it?
Didn't they fight in season 4? I think it was a main event fight. Didn't they?
No.
Maybe they did.
No.
Oh,
Endgame for Death Roll and Ribbot in season 4, and then he did the Desperado. Went out in round 2, and then lost, and then beat Cobalt.
Yeah. I guess I'm mixing up things. Just it's whatever. But far be it for me to mix.
What I will say is that this reminded me a lot of the 2019 Grand Final.
Yeah.
In the Witch Doctor,
he had it again.
An amazing moment of removing the wedgelets, and he's just like, "Come on, Witch Doctor, you can." Oh,
it's over. Yeah. Never mind. As soon as Endgame pushes them into that corner, there's only one way that fight's going, because the Witch Doctor wheels at the back stick out enough so they can turn, and if they're pushed against the wall, they get pushed back. Endgame then gets under it. Annihilation ensues. It was just and then you see the top panel come off. You see the whole side just crumpled in, and you see all the electronics start to fall out. And
some of those pieces are up for sale now.
They are. They're on eBay. They're on eBay if you want to go and buy some Witch Doctor. This was. I wonder if Mike had a little bit of rush of blood to the head, and I say this.
How do you figure?
So he took the first wedgelet off, or the one end wedgelet off, and then he absolutely full sends it at Endgame, creates loads of sparks off its long fork, and then Endgame turns the tide from there. I wonder if Mike had been a little bit more patient, it could have gone his way.
I think had they gone for the tactics of removing the wedge,
slowly,
all of the forks and the wedgelets and everything, like they did with Bite Force, but more calm and calculated than that time, and not, they didn't expose themselves quite like they did with Bite Force. Obviously, Bite Force has that awesome technique of managing to rip out the guts of your robots, just sliding up the top. It does it in 2 hits every time, and Witch Doctor learned from that. But yeah, this was a very powerful end game, and an unstoppable end game, I would say. As I said previously, Sawblaze I think stands somewhat of a chance of beating Endgame. I don't know what else does other than Minotaur. There's
Copperhead maybe, Riptide maybe, something with a wider weapon, like we've kind of discussed before.
Yeah, something that's got a nice bite, but
there's not much out there. Endgame as well is also 4 fights fresher. Yeah. And I wonder if that, Witch Doctor coming into this fight, it's normally looking so pristine and gorgeous, and
Are we at the point again where Huge is one of the robots that we think could beat Endgame? Because everyone said could beat Bite Force given another round, and gave it a good run for its money.
Yep. If it spins down as well, could do some fun stuff. But on this occasion, Witch Doctor almost had it again, but once again, losing
don't
finalists.
defeat from the jaws of victory.
What is it going to take for this thing to reach the summit? It's
I mean, it's had its Remars win.
yeah.
It won 2 fights. It was fortunate that Tombstone was dead, and it fought Bronco on the downward slope.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing to take away from them, obviously.
Poor old Witch Doctor. I mean,
I feel so bad for them. Like, you could see after that fight, that team just looked so done, and you know, they're always so classy. You know, they took a nice photo with them with the opposition team winning their trophy again, and posted that on their social medias, and it's such a shame because I feel like they need that. If BattleBots was to end, let's say, at the end of season 7, I don't think it will, but you never know, right? It might do.
Mm-hmm.
And Witch Doctor doesn't win a title. Oof, it's got to sting, hasn't it?
the best robot never to win.
Yeah,
I think
untitled
it's,
completely. You're going to be talking about them, if we have these kind of conversations of like,
they're the hypno disc of modern BattleBots, aren't they? Like,
right.
They're like head and shoulders like one of the best machines in the field.
Perfect comparison.
And they're
one of my favorite classic Robot Wars.
They are. They do feel like you got the Holy Trinity of Robot Wars, which was Razor Chaos 2 Hypnodisc.
Yes.
And Witch Doctor is definitely one of the Holy Trinity of reboot BattleBots: Tombstone, Witch Doctor, Bite Force, maybe Bronco as well.
Yeah, it's
in its heyday. Yeah.
What do we think about Endgame winning again? Back to the summit. Like, are they the best machine in the field?
No, because they got beaten in this year's run.
But
this is it. The level of challenge involved in building a fighting robot is that there is no perfect design. Have you learned nothing in these 6 or so years, Sam?
No, well, I've learned that building a robot is dangerous and shouldn't be completed without great care.
Now that's a 20-year journey. That one.
It's true. It's true. But I mean, Endgame, on balance, I feel like is just the most complete robot in the field now. Like it's.
But there will always be something
until it isn't.
Yeah, of course. It's the rock paper scissors thing. You can never have something that beats everything. But Endgame is, I feel, the closest. It's the closest to being a shotgun in that scenario. And credit to them, they did exactly what they needed to do. They knocked Witch Doctor out. And...
Sam, from the tone of your voice, you start to sound like me as the want to root for the team that isn't winning all the time.
No, look, I have no issue with Endgame winning all the time. That's fine. I think that
there's something in my head that just goes, you're a winner. I'm really glad you won. I want you to lose.
No, I don't want Endgame to lose. I want something to give them a challenge.
I really do. I want to see the robots that beat it because I think that interests me more.
Wow.
I agree with the level of challenge, but I want to see who beats it.
Yeah.
And I want every matchup next year, 0-4 Endgame, humble them.
Well, they are now one of three group teams that have a nut and a bolt. We've seen them screw their giant nut from 2020 onto the golden bolt. That's a flex, isn't it? Like there's not much more you can flex other than that, really, is there?
Who is it? Endgame, Tombstone, and
Team Fusible.
That's it.
So they're your 3.
Just silly. It's just silly.
There's another.
Who else? No.
He has a Desperado giant bolt,
but it doesn't fit.
Does it not?
The thread's different on the
classic. They changed the thread. Is it an M4?
So and again, I know this. I'm going to shout out the Skorpios builder blog again because they went to the Waiachi clans.
They have a giant bolt and several giant nuts and
doesn't fit. Not quite.
You gotta buy a coupler. You gotta buy a coupler that just has one thread on one side and one on the other. And then
what they need to do is just go and get some sort of giant tool to go and make the new threads for it.
Bring it to the biggest. Just put it on a lathe and just
it's just like, please, can you rethread this?
They need it retapping. Yeah. And that pretty much is everything. With BattleBots, the race for the golden bolt has been won by Endgame.
It's over. Everything is done.
Yep.
It's a year later, finally.
Over a year later. It was.
And now we move into next year.
Yeah, the waiting period.
This year.
Jevan, you're heading off to Las Vegas to go and see the new season.
I won't tease it anymore. We are booked. We are going.
How excited are you? Because did you go and see Robot Wars when that came back?
No. So this is the reason why I am eager to go, because I never got to see Robot Wars filmed before it was cancelled, and up till now I haven't been able to see BattleBots filmed. And we had planned to in 2020. Everything was a go. We had all the tickets booked, all the plane, hotel, even a hire car ready and waiting and stuff, and
just couldn't do it because of a certain
COVID.
Yeah. Steve, are you going over to Las Vegas?
I would love to. I
think I am.
Yeah, I really do. I really do think I am. But we will see.
Hey Steve, should we do a RoboCast live?
That would be awesome.
That'll sound to it.
I'll let you know later in the day, because I still have to look at prices and times and stuff like that and make my plans. I'm deciding whether or not it's just going to be me going over or me and my dad. So that's really that's the conversation right now. So calling my father out online.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, Steve's dad.
It is very exciting, the fact that we are getting another season, obviously not long after this one's ended.
You say that.
Finish airing,
I think that has been done on purpose. It has been
built up
to give us BattleBots for longer across a year.
But the builders have to have it it's like you're not able to talk about anything for a whole year, and now you're not able to talk about it again.
Yep,
that's TV. I suppose
constant closed-lipped communication. You got to be like, it's been quite a long time already. Now they got to be secret again. But that's TV. You're right. So
that is TV. As well as that, there are the supporters fights which are currently being uploaded. I think we're 7 fights in now. I think there's a few more to come. I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are we going to review them as well?
We will review them when they are on YouTube, because they are currently behind a paywall, and we will respect BattleBots by not revealing all of their content before.
I think they're coming out on YouTube later this year, they said. So
yes, it's either late this year or early next year, something like that. So
there is one hell of a fight has just been released, which is
I was going to say
incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. If you want to go and see these fights, become a supporter. Go and
it's a good time to.
Yes.
You get early access to BattleBots tickets.
You do indeed. You do indeed.
Although I think BattleBots tickets go live this coming week, so maybe not.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled if you want to go and see some fighty robots in Vegas. But in the meantime, that's it for us. I mean, I say there is this one special interview coming, maybe this week, maybe the week after, depending on how.
Yeah, the off season for us is very strange. So
it is. I'm looking forward to having a break again, though. I won't be traveling to Las Vegas. I'm busy getting married, so that will be very exciting.
Priorities, Sam. Come on.
I know. Shocking.
Vegas marriages happen all the time.
Yeah, you could get Elvis to do it.
Oh,
there you go.
I don't think my better half will ever forget.
Get Greg Munson to do it.
Oh dearie me.
You could get Trey Roski to do it. Now there's
on his Segway, no less. But,
in his spacesuit.
The long and the short of it is, the content will die down for a little bit, but we will be back as always when BattleBots returns. We may do a few.
Sam may drink another Flamingo Colada. Who knows?
They don't sell them anymore.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Because they're terrible.
Tesco, bring back the
Flamingo
Colada.
No.
Give us a brand deal for them.
It's disgusting.
Ground up flamingo in it, basically. It probably tasted just like that.
Delicious. Well,
on that animal cruelty on YouTube.
Yeah, we've been removed now. But with all that said, I have been Sam Elliott 64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy.
And I've been talking absolute garbage all episode.
I think we all have. I think we're just done with this season.
Yeah,
and
we're burnt.
the three of us will see you in the not too distant future for more podcasting goodness, I'm sure. But in the meantime, be good. Enjoy BattleBots if you're going to go and see it filmed. And
don't spoil it.
No, please. No, please.
Okay. Well, see you then.